Alright, got something a little bit different today. This is a Lego RC Jeep. I didn't design the Jeep. I've modified it obviously, but this is actually an original Lego kit number 5510 from, I'm pretty sure it was 1986. I've actually owned it since new. The original Jeep was yellow, and instead of the cab back here had basically like a roll bar up here. I've built the cab to kind of hide the electronics, and slowly I've been revising the internals to compact it more and more and more, hopefully, and when I get time, maybe put the original roll bar back on and lose this to get it back to the original thing. But I decided to rebuild the Jeep in red because I had all of the original parts, but in red. So basically, as you can see, it's just this was super popular back in the day. This particular Jeep, it just like I said, it was yellow. So you may or may not be familiar with it. So, but it's I got it connected to my DX5R Spektrum radio, and it is full RC. So I mean, basically, it was easy enough to do the steering. I modified a couple things and hit a high-tech servo under the front end, and I had to modify one of those old school little baby Lego steering wheels that came in the really cheap kits, where it was basically just a little snapped onto two dots and had the cheap little steering wheel. I cut that off and cut a slot in it, and then put a pin off of the steering servo. Just basically glued it into one of the holes off the steering servo, so the pin goes into that slot so it can go back and forth. And that just hid just about perfectly right underneath the hood. Actually, I'll just leave that off so I can dissect this so you can actually see what's going on. Originally, the floor was lower. There was sort of a center console, and it had two deeper footwells, but I had to build that up because I needed to make room for a LiPo, 2S LiPo battery. And that hides just under the floor. And it worked out really well. This is a separate thing. This is a 3D printed Lego GoPro mount, because you can put the GoPro on top of it with the FPV setup and drive it around the house and chase the cat or whatever. For the motor, I actually went with a Lego motor. So I took one of the actual Lego motors that you can buy. I think you can buy them off eBay for around $20. I just went down and had to check out the local Lego store and just bought the whole kit for like $40. That comes with all the controller, the battery holder, and all the stuff. I didn't use any of it. I just bought it, took apart the motor, because the motor's the motor has 4 wires going to it originally, and I think it just has basically to do with their building block setup, because their electrical connectors are Lego based, so it allows them to plug the thing on multiple positions, but no matter how a kid plugs it in, he can't short circuit the thing. So I disassembled the motor, had to pry it open a little bit, got in there, found basically the main positive and negative leads to the motor, and soldered wires directly into it. And then I found, I bought several of them, I figured I'm going to use them for future projects, whatever. And bought a bunch of like 10 amp forward reverse ESCs. I seriously think I spent $10, and I think I got 4 of them offline. And then I used that Chinese knockoff Spektrum receiver. I think I bought 3 of them for $30. Bound that to my Spektrum DX5R. And I just recently went and bought this to control all my other vehicles. I was going to go buy the DX6R, but then I found out it only works with the new DSMR receivers, which sucks because those things are super expensive. So this one works with DSMR receivers and DSMX receivers, and you can buy, like the Chinese knockoff DSMX receivers. So I do so many of these stupid little projects that I can't be putting a $60 to $80 to $100 receiver in every one of these little projects. It's absolutely it's cost prohibitive. So it would have been nice to have all the features of the DSXR and the the Android touchscreen and all this and that, but I lost a channel and I lost a bunch of neat features, but I gained something that was literally, they both could have been the same price and I would have bought the DX5R. It is what it is. I don't know why they chose to do that. I thought it was insane. But so I did the like I said, I did the Lego motor, tore it apart, and as you can see, the motor's all the way up here. And instead of doing gear drive down, and I tried that initially, I tried to do several gears to get it down to the drive for the axle, but I just couldn't get the, anybody that tinkers with Technic Lego stuff knows that the gears are designed to be in certain offsets or whatever. You only have so many options to make the gear mesh correct. There was absolutely no way, so I actually started looking at lengthening the Jeep a little bit to make it work, and I did have it working that way. But by the time I was done, I looked at it and it looked, I mean, it looked ridiculous. It didn't look right. It didn't look like the original kit. So I changed my mind and decided to go to use the actual Lego chain drive. So Lego motor's mounted up there, and I tried all the basic, it's really 3 or 4 or 5 gears available for the Lego stuff, and found a decent ratio that works, that gives it a usable amount of speed, and basically put the motor up here, put the chain drive all the way down to here, and so it's basically just motor, servo, receivers hiding right here. The speed control, the little Chinese one that I was talking about, is so small, it's literally just slipped it behind the motor. It's probably 5 millimeters thick. Just slipped it back down behind there, and then once you put it all together, you just pop all this stuff down. I tried to recreate the original Lego floor just without the hump, and I made it all one piece because that's what you have to remove to get the battery in. And it's a 1.0 1000 milliamp 2S LiPo battery. It'll probably drive this thing for, I would imagine, 3 to 4 hours. Like, I've driven this thing endlessly, and I plug it into the charger, and the battery's charged before I even sit on the couch. So that plugs back in there. The roof goes on, and like I said, I'm still revising, as I'm playing around, trying to reduce the size of the drive components and compact everything down, because I think it'd be neat if I can get the original roll bar back on it, at the as the original Lego kit intended. Just putting this back on here so I don't lose it. GoPro mount. And obviously I did my own LED light kit. And I just took, I just took stole power right off of the BEC, right off of the receiver, and just did my own LED light kit. And then obviously, if you guys are familiar with this kit, the original kit had just those little 2x1, tall things with the hole in the front, and they had a peg, and then they had a round headlight like the original Jeeps had, but obviously I wasn't going to be able to put headlights in that, so I swapped them out to square clear blocks, and then I bought these in bulk so I could do this, and then I just drilled holes in them, pushed in 3mm LEDs, glued them from the back, and then just put the needed resistors on them to make them work with the 5 or 6 volts or whatever was coming off of the BEC, off of the speed controller that I bought. I can't remember if it was 5 or 6 volts. I'm sure it was 5 volts because it's just a Chinese deal. And then did the same, same for the rear lights. Nothing crazy special there, but it's kind of neat. I've had this car, since 1986, and pulled it apart, rebuilt it, and did this and that. And one day I just literally took apart the whole thing, and this was long before I turned it into RC, and just rebuilt the whole thing with red parts instead of the yellow parts. Just it is what it is. But I don't know. Got a nice little, table's slick, so it's doing a little burnouts, but I mean, you get it. It works. This thing's super compact. and it might be hard to understand like how small this thing is. Like I'm fairly sizable and I have huge hands, but just for an example, like this is an old school like 1990 RC10 team car, and that this is the size we're dealing with. I think it came out really well. It's hilarious. It's fun to drive around, and it's fun to put the GoPro on top and drive it around the house and hook up the FPV to the TV in the living room and chase the cat around the whole house. I don't know. I don't know if you like it. Throw a thumbs up. Ask me any questions you want. I like doing just clearly oddball projects, and yeah. All right. Yeah. If you have any questions, post below. Thanks.